Hey everyone, this is Derrick Broze, former mayoral candidate and founder of the Conscious Resistance Network. I'm going to be sharing this video on all of my platforms and channels. This is really for anybody who maybe hasn't fully grasped the situation that's happening now that we're almost 2 weeks since I have been rejected from the Houston mayoral ballot. We're going to talk all about that in this short video. I want to let you guys know derrickbroze.com, which is the site for my campaign and just my general personal site. It's going to remain with the issues for my mayoral campaign until November 7th. After that, it will be transformed. But yeah, just stay tuned there if you want updates on all the work I'm doing related to Houston for the next couple months. Now, for those who don't know, I was blocked from the ballot, and a couple of days before the deadline, which was Monday, August 21st, I decided to announce this, and I actually put together a letter of support. I got several of the the mayoral candidates, including Mr. Hujami, council member and mayoral candidate Robert Gallegos, Gilbert Garcia, former council member and current mayoral candidate Jack Christie, former council member Sue Lovell, and mayoral candidate Robin Williams, who's also a police officer and a Marine veteran. And I also had verbal support from MJ Khan. I want to acknowledge, even from Sheila Jackson Lee, as well as Lee Kaplan, saying they believe that I should have the right to run on the ballot. And I made this situation public because behind the scenes, my team and I, we had been working on this since about July 26th. I was rejected from the ballot about 2 days after I signed up. So behind the scenes, we were doing all kinds of work that we could do, and trying to show the city that we had support of the people and the other candidates. I also went on Fox 26 locally and talked about it. There was mention of it in other Fox 26 shows. Houston Landing wrote about it. So we were generating a good amount of press, but ultimately this is where it ended up, as you can see with this title: Houston rejects mayoral candidate with felony conviction, citing controversial Texas ban. And they do their own version of this article. I will include this below. But what I want to get to is to show you guys this kind of statement I put out. And just for those who don't know, and then I'll go into the specifics for those who are maybe listening from outside of Houston and Texas, or even within the city, who just don't understand what the law is when it relates to felons. So as I just kind of went over, I have been working with the other candidates. We got Houston Landing to write about it. Here, I'll open up those articles. As you saw here, the Houston Chronicle wrote about it at the end. Here's Houston Landing. They mentioned my name, that I was basically waiting to find out if my nonviolent felony drug conviction would keep me on the ballot. And as they said, it's frustrating. I've changed my life. I turned things around. To have something like this come back to haunt me, it's exhausting. Here's another one. We got Fox 26. And I'm showing you all this just to show you, like, we were doing everything we can. Houston mayoral candidate once on the ballot despite felony conviction nearly 20 years ago. And you can see there, they interviewed me. So myself and my team, we did not just sit around and kind of do nothing. Like, we were working on this. I was working on this day and night, trying to get some traction, from getting media coverage, getting the other candidates to support me. And we had hundreds of people from all over the world, really, within Houston and outside of Houston, sending emails, sending phone calls to the mayor's office, to the city attorney's office, telling them that they wanted me to be on the ballot, that they wanted to be able to vote for me. And in the end, they decided not to go through with it. And I do want to say I'm proud of the campaign we ran as a mayoral candidate. It was 6 months from January till basically August 21st. And I was in dozens of forums and events. I was on Channel 2. I was interviewed by Fox 26. Unfortunately, they didn't air that interview because of this whole situation. I was on Fox 26 again talking about the felony situation. And as I just showed you, several other news outlets reported on me. I was interviewed by Houston Landing. And overall, we also received 2 endorsements: the Harris County Libertarian Party, the Texas Libertarian Party Mises Caucus. Talked to so many people, got my message out there, and I'm just grateful for everybody who supported us and who helped us get this far. And this is not the end, though. This is really what I want to share. Besides showing you guys the law, the next stages of this campaign, we're now calling my campaign the Movement to Empower Houstonians. Just a simple name for this temporary campaign for the final 2 months of the Houston races, where we're going to focus on 3 specific issues, promoting them throughout events. And the cool thing is, for those of you who've been following me on social media, the Derrick Broze for Mayor campaign on Telegram and Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, I'm still being invited to events. I've still been invited and accepted to certain events despite no longer being on the ballot. So I do plan to continue to attend events. I was at the Fort Bend Mayoral Forum this last weekend. I participated in it. I was on stage. None of the other candidates have any issue with it. They think I should be in the race. And that was covered by the local media as well. I did a radio interview yesterday. That's going to be going out. And I'm still getting invited to places. So we are running a sort of shadow phantom campaign here, even though I'm not officially on the ballot. And no, I cannot be a write-in candidate because I know some of you will probably suggest that. In Texas, as we're going to go over in a moment, even as a felon from 18 years ago, nonviolent felony, I can't even be a write-in candidate as far as they're concerned. So I'm grateful to everybody who's been supporting us, but now we are switching to the movement to empower Houstonians. And for the next 2 months and I think a week, we will be continuing to attend events. I'm going to an event tonight. I'm going to events this weekend. And now our campaign material has switched. Instead of just being about promoting Derrick Broze, we are now promoting the various issues that I was bringing to the table. And these issues include promoting Proposition A, which is a proposed amendment to the city charter which would allow 3 council members to add items to the weekly agenda. And currently in the city of Houston, the mayor is the only one who can do this. And this makes Houston's strong mayoral position one of the strongest in the entire United States, essentially making the mayor a local dictatorship. And that's just not the current mayor, it's just the position itself. And for those of you who've been following, you know that in 2019, I was the only mayoral candidate to raise awareness about the power of the mayoral position, and the only one saying that if I became mayor, I would reduce the power of that office. Well, thankfully it caught on. Houstonians came together, got more than 40,000 petition signatures to get this on the ballot, and now Houstonians in November can vote to make it so that City Council can actually introduce agenda items. And, you know, back in the day when I was fighting to get fluoride out of the water or fighting about 5G or police violence or homelessness issues, we could only get so far because the city council members have no power to introduce items to actually be discussed on the weekly agenda. So sure, we could go there and yell at the mayor and yell at the city council, but as far as actually getting things done, the mayor is the only one who has that power. Voting yes on Proposition A could change that. Now we're promoting Proposition A. We're going to have yard signs coming very soon for that as well, so please stay tuned. The other 2 issues we're raising awareness about are ending the anti-food sharing ordinance, which is still being used by the current mayor to ticket those who are feeding homeless folks downtown at the public library. And it's something that I've been fighting against since the very beginning back in 2011 when it first passed. So I'm committed to raising awareness on that. And we're also calling for ending the Houston Police Department's shot spotter surveillance contract. And this is something I've talked about as well, how this tool is really ultimately a tool for surveillance. It's currently being placed in Black and brown communities. It doesn't even work, so it's not going to reduce gun violence. It's just an expensive tool that the police like to have, but it doesn't actually do what they claim. So those are the 3 issues that the movement to empower Houstonians via my campaign website is going to be promoting. Voting yes on Proposition A, ending the anti-food sharing ordinance, and ending the shot spotter contract. We now have new campaign material that we're taking to all the events and we're handing out, and we're telling people, hey, ask your favorite mayoral candidate, where do they stand on these issues? And we're going to be putting out like a report card soon showing you where the candidates stand on these issues, specifically where they stand on Proposition A. Because as far as I'm concerned, if a candidate doesn't want you to have the right to have a voice, to give the council the power to introduce new items, then they probably don't deserve your vote. And the final thing I want to say is here's a piece I wrote a couple days ago called Texas Election Law is Designed to Disenfranchise Former Felons. And this is where I'll get a little bit more into the specifics about what exactly happened, like what the law is that's preventing me from running. Yes, it is technically that the Texas Election Code is vague and it doesn't make it clear if I can run as a felon. And the mayor's office is using that vagueness and that ambiguity to prevent me from running. Specifically, they're using a 2019 legal opinion from currently indicted Republican Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, who literally at this moment is facing an impeachment trial and facing felony charges. And he put out a legal opinion in 2019 that he says claims the courts, do not allow felons to get the right to run for office again. You get your right to vote once you complete everything, but not your right to run for office. And the process to get that alleged right is very, very difficult. And the thing is, though, I ran in 2019, as many of you know. So here's where we'll get into the details. What changed? Why was I allowed to run for mayor in 2019, but not in 2023? Texas Election Code regarding felons is confusing, as I said. This is what it officially states. You must not have been, quote, finally convicted of a felony from which the person has not been pardoned. That's clear. Pardon comes from the governor. Or otherwise released from the resulting disabilities. And it's this phrase, resulting disabilities, which has caused much confusion in the last few years. So some, including myself, have interpreted this to mean that once you finish your sentence and parole and you don't owe any more money to the state of Texas, you are released from resulting disabilities. And for example, in 2018, a felon filed to run for Austin City Council, and after the people spoke out, the city clerk there approved his ballot application and he was allowed to run. He did not win, but he was allowed to run, and he believed that he was relieved of these resulting disabilities by completing his sentence. As I mentioned, I ran in 2019 under the same premise. That same year, there was a woman, Cynthia Bailey, who ran in the District B City Council race. She had a previous felony conviction for theft. She actually made the runoff, but the third place candidate filed a lawsuit against her, and it dragged on for more than a year. And ultimately, a judge decided that she could stay on the ballot, but they did not rule specifically on the language of the election code or her legitimacy as a candidate. They just said, hey, she's on the ballot. The people of Houston can decide if they want a felon in office or not. Then after that, it became more of an issue. 2021, you have Texas Representative Jarvis Johnson introduces a bill to clarify the language. He was trying to remove the reference to pardon and just say, once you finish your time, you can get your rights back. But that bill died right away. It didn't go anywhere. But another bill did get introduced, and it actually passed. It was by Representative Ryan Gillian, and that one actually added a single line to Texas election code, which says that, quote, a person who has been convicted of a felony shall include in the application proof that the person is eligible for public office. Unfortunately, it didn't say what proof is, and it didn't clarify the resulting disabilities phrase. So if anything, it just made things more confusing. But it's this sentence about proof, which the city of Houston added to the requirements to run for office in 2023. And as well as they put a sentence stating, quote, release from or successful completion of probation or parole does not make a convicted felon eligible for place on the ballot or able to hold elected office. But again, that second line there saying, hey, just because you finished this doesn't mean you're qualified. That's not in the law. That's not in the election code. That comes from that 2019 legal opinion that I mentioned by Republican Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. And this came after he was asked specifically, what do you think about this question? And he wrote a response letter where he says that you do not get your restoration of voting rights once you complete your sentence, and you do not get your full citizenship rights either. And that includes the right to run for office. Now, the whole ironic thing about this is that, as I mentioned, Paxton is currently indicted for felonies. But somebody like him who's connected and works with the governor, clearly he's going to get a pardon before me, just an average person, 18 years after I've been out of prison and, completed this time. So, it's about who you know. Of course, he can get a pardon. Somebody like me will not get a pardon. And that's what's important to understand is not only is the language vague, but the remedies that they claim, which is, just get a pardon, it's not even a realistic possibility because you have to either go through a sheriff and then it goes to the Board of Pardons and Paroles, or you go directly to the board, or you try to go directly through the governor. But ultimately, it all has to go to the governor's desk and he signs it. And Greg Abbott, governor of Texas, he has one of the lowest records for approving pardons in recent Texas history, even lower than George Bush and Rick Perry. So that's not a realistic option. Now, what other options are there for me? The only other option for felons interested in running for office is known as judicial clemency. And Paxton does acknowledge that this is a legal opinion, but I've found that several Texas courts believe felons only have 30 days to apply for judicial clemency once you are released from prison or parole. And I can tell you guys, nobody tells you that at all. When you're getting released or you're about to get off parole, nobody says, oh, by the way, if you ever want to run for office or if you want to get your rights back, you have 30 days to apply for judicial clemency. So you want to go ahead and get that done. Nobody even mentions it. It's never even discussed. It's insane. So here we are, and essentially they're arguing that I am eternally robbed of my constitutional right to freedom of expression and freedom of association because of an 18-year-old nonviolent felony. And I am working with an election lawyer, and I more than likely will be pursuing this lawsuit over the Texas election code, but this is not going to help me get on the ballot. And it doesn't really feel good to be judged for the mistakes of my youth, especially when a lot of these politicians, they like to pay lip service to wanting to help felons re-enter society and, get their lives back together. And here's a felon right here trying to go out there and do good in the community, and they're rejecting him. And a version of what I wrote was actually published today, Thursday, August 31st, in the Houston Chronicle. It's on their website. It's in the physical paper today as well. And they titled it, "I Served My Time, Why Can't I Run for Houston Mayor?" And you can see that there as well. I'll include all the links in these videos. And I just want to say, again, thank you to everybody who has been supporting my mayoral campaign, those who donated, who attended events, who got yard signs and shirts and stickers, and just, I mean, so many people, not even just in Houston, but around the world, helped out in different ways. And I'm so grateful for that, and I'm disappointed that I can't complete this race for you. But I just want you to know that me and my team are not going anywhere. We have 2 more months. We're committed to trying to get the issues that I was talking about, continue to keep them in the discussion, and raise awareness on them. So your support means a lot. And the other thing I want to say to my normal audience who is probably wondering, Derrick, I still don't get it why you're running for mayor in a rigged system. Guys, believe me, I understand the system is rigged. Part of me running is to highlight that and to show people who don't really understand how rigged the system is. Because I'm sure some of you are thinking, oh, Derrick, big surprise. The system used some, creative ways to keep people like you out and to keep your voice from being heard. Yeah, I know, it's not that big of a surprise, but now people are hearing about it. Now it's in the local paper, it's on the local media. I've been able to raise this as an issue itself, and I'm already seeing people, even in this Chronicle piece that came out today, you can look at the comments and somebody says, oh, I went and looked at his website. A lot of the ideas he says aren't that bad. They're pretty good. They should let him run. So the ideas that people are going to find about my work, hopefully through that, they're going to be led to learning more about the conscious resistance and to my journalism and my work outside of this mayoral campaign, and we can continue to plant seeds in the minds of Houstonians and others around the world. That has been my goal from the very beginning, and I appreciate you guys. So with that said, you probably won't hear much about my mayoral campaign from here going out unless you're directly following my campaign. You'll continue to hear updates on Proposition A and everything else that we're doing. So please subscribe for that at derrickbroze.com if you're not already. But for those of you who follow my other work regularly, you probably won't hear much after that. I just wanted to make this video to sort of summarize everything I've been up to, what I've been dealing with, and what the actual law says and what I'm facing. If and when I do decide to file this lawsuit, you'll probably hear about that. But for now, let's move on to other things. Thank you guys so much for the support. I really, really do appreciate it. Until next time, remember, you are powerful.